We debate many important issues in this chamber, but this issue, the issue of voting rights, I argue is decidedly different. For this issue is about the preservation and the protection of the democracy itself. That is, after all, what we claim to be. We have to ensure that the voices of the people can be heard in their own house. Now, I know some of my Republican friends are vowing to prevent this debate, to stop it before it begins. And we're not talking yet about passing the bill. Be very clear, we're just talking about it. And what could be more hypocritical and cynical than invoking minority rights in the Senate as a pretext for preventing debate about how to preserve minority rights in the society? With all of the audits being ordered, and with all of the voting legislation being feverishly passed in states all across our country, clearly, ironically, there is agreement, albeit for different reasons on the right and on the left, that democracy itself is in danger. And so I rise, Mr. President, with what I think is a simple request of my colleagues. Let's do our job. Well, colleagues, how derelict in our duty would we be if in this defining moment we refuse to even have a debate about how best to preserve and protect that which is most precious, the democracy itself? In my maiden speech this past March, I made an urgent call upon this body to act to protect the right to vote. That was not theoretical stuff for me. I hail from Georgia. Since I gave that maiden speech, things have only gotten worse. When I spoke here in March, 250 voter suppression proposals had been introduced in 43 states. Now it is 389 proposals in 48 states. Since I spoke here in March, Georgia and 13 other states have enacted these voter suppression bills into law, 14 in total. In Georgia, after record voter turnout in a historic election, there's now a provision in SB 202 that allows partisan actors at the state level to take over the board, to take over the process at the local level. As voters are casting their ballots, imagine that. I'm hoping to include a provision I introduced yesterday with some of my colleagues that will prevent politicians from being able to overrule local election officials and therefore subvert the voices of the people. Who are we? And how are we to hide at a moment like this? The United States of America, a nation built on that simple but sublime principle: one person, one vote. Mr. President, I yield the floor.